it's go time right now. All of our GNC 1 riders, they know that they've already secured themselves a spot into tonight's program. It's a little bit different, Chris. In the GNC 2 class, we have 44 entries, and only the fastest 32 will make it to tonight's program.
Well, I'm sure there are certain riders in that group that want to see maybe a little bit of moisture wipe this out, and there are some that say, "Hey, I'd like to get it in and have a chance to get in." So I guess it depends on if you're the outside looking in or the inside looking out. So very, very interesting in how that could play out for our final qualifying positions.
So the GNC 1 riders are lining up. They come out in their practice sessions according to their point standings, and some riders near say like the third group, Chris, are riders that haven't rode with us this year in the 2015 season or haven't picked up any points this year. It doesn't mean that they're slow. It means that they haven't gained any points or haven't worked their way up the leaderboard. So that's why they bring them out according to their point standings. In GNC 1, the rider that's coming out first is the number 2. That's Kenny Coolbeth. The 1 of Jared Meese will come out second. 44 Brandon Robinson on the Triumph will come out third. Sammy Halbert, riding a Kawasaki this year, will come to the racetrack fourth. Brian Smith, also on the Kawasaki, will be out there fifth. And the factory Harley will come out sixth. And he shot around everybody in the first 2 times out. He wants to go out there and lead this thing. Is that something you would like to do, or what would you do in this particular instance?
Well, I think in the case of Brad, getting out front is where he wants to be, so he might as well try and emulate that in practice. If that's where you want to be at the end of the night, you might as well see what it feels like during practice. So I can see how that's a benefit for him.
Also coming onto the racetrack is the 14. That is Briar Bauman. 80, Stevie Bonzi. 27 is Robbie Pearson. He's listed here on a Harley. He's also riding out of the Waters Auto Body team, so he has opportunity to ride a KTM. I believe part of their deal was to try the Harley here first. Henry Wiles on the 17, also on a Harley-Davidson. 23, Jeffrey Carver. 55, Jake Shoemaker on a Triumph. 73, Doug Lawrence. 91, Mikey Martin. 15, Nicole Meese. This is our last full season as a GNC 1 rider. And the 49, that's the California kid, Chad Coase, as they make their way back onto the racetrack. Here we go. Final round of a qualifying here in Hagerstown.
We saw the 73, Doug Lawrence, the Canadian, moving up, running fourth on the track. He finished, I think, a pretty solid fourth here a year ago. He goes really, really good here at Hagerstown as he finds himself up there mixing it up with the guys that were at the top of the leaderboard earlier.
Talked to Doug Lawrence earlier, him and his father. They said this is his kind of racetrack. I know he's from Canada, but I would think he'd be liking the cushion track, but Dougie likes this racetrack. He wants to improve his best finish. He's looking for his first Grand National victory. Could it come here tonight at Hagerstown? We will see in just a little bit. Coolbeth leads him down the back straightaway on the 2. Brad Baker on the 6. Doug Lawrence has put himself now in third on the racetrack.
As we see Kenny Coolbeth, I think he's hitting his stride right here. He's looking comfortable out front. Nobody's really putting it down. He's starting to pull away a little bit. The track has developed into a track that he's seen a lot of. Gets his foot picked up a little early, gets his rear end scooted back, get a little weight transfer to the rear, goes over the little hump on the back stretch, flicks it off into turn 3. This is, I think the wheeling into the racetrack has maybe made it a little bit more consistent. You'll see a little bit less dust than what we did in the second round. But he's moving forward right now.
Timing and scoring has not quite yet updated yet for us, but that looked like a super fast lap for Kenny Coolbeth on the 2 bike. Tell us about that hump going across the back straightaway. How bad does that affect your setup, and how does it affect your suspension? Because that's where the trucks and trailers and everything go across the racetrack, not only for these bikes, but also for the race cars. So it's a drastic hump, it looks like.
Yeah, a lot of time we saw Coolbeth kind of turning over a little bit, trying to keep the front end down a little bit. I don't think it really affects your setup. Some guys use it as a little wheelie bump, but it just, the bike has to, raises up and it has to settle down before you really flick it off into the corners. We see Coolbeth certainly got the field covered right now. 0.3 of a second quicker currently than the 42 of Brian Smith.
And that is also faster than our first round of official time practice. So if we get through all the way through all 3 groups in GNC 1, then that will be the fast time. That's Kenny Coolbeth with a 2:4.133. Kenny Coolbeth right now is our provisional fast time. Brian Smith on the Kawasaki 2:4.427. And that's pretty close. Now here comes Brian Smith, got his lap a little bit faster on that last one with a 2:4.395. Jared Meese in third, and Chad Coase in the 4th spot. Jeffrey Carver rounds out your top 5. The factory Harley back to 6th. Chris, do you think he made some changes or didn't make some changes, or were they trying something?
It's hard to say. Maybe they were satisfied with where they were. They did a 24-2 the first round to be fast time. Maybe they did a little gamble, said, hey, let's see if this will work, see if it'll make it better or if it makes it worse. At least now they know.
Here they come. Group number 2, it's the 5 of Jake Johnson, 77 Kyle Johnson, 17F Jared Vanderkoy, 32 Sean Bear, 65 Corey Texter was, he texted me earlier, said he was 11th on a bone stock 650. That's what he said to me. We'll see. 65 Corey Texter, 94K Jake Cunningham, 87's Mick Kirkness, 16 Wyatt McGuire, 12 Jay Maloney, 89 Evan Bear, 28 P's Michael Bickerton, 67 Colt Shabolts, 96 Cody John Cox, 20 T's Mikey LaBelle, and the 82 is Jeremy Higgins.
Well, I find it hard to believe that there's anything bone stock on this racetrack today.
You can't buy anything just like this.
Yeah, I know there's a little exhaust work done to that thing there. He's not running a stock motorcycle.
Exactly. It's not a 650 Ninja by any means. They're racing out here in Hagerstown. It's actually qualifying time practice. This is group number 2 of the GNC 1 riders. Group number 3 is coming up next. Final round, qualifying time practice. This will set our field for tonight's event.
Jake Johnson out front on the 5, the fastest of this group so far, at a time of a 24.675, more than a half a second slower than our fast time of Kenny Coolbeth from the first group, but a little bit better than what he was in the last round. So he's picked up a little bit of speed, made a few adjustments either to the motorcycle or how he's riding, but run quite a bit different line than what Coolbeth is. Pretty similar going in, lets the thing drift up a little bit more through the middle of the corner, but getting back on the rear of the motorcycle, accelerating off the corner, looked like a pretty good turn 3 and then 4 there for the 5 of Jake Johnson on a borrowed Harley.
That looked really fast. We'll see if his times change. Right now he's currently in the 8th spot in this second and final round. We'll use these times if we can get through the entire next group, which is up next. Jake Johnson's times dropped a little bit, but he's still in the 8th spot right now, not where he wants to be.
Second on the track and moving forward a little bit in this group, the 17F of Jared Vanderkoy into the 14th position. The 80 of Stevie Bonzi in the 13th position.
Wow, it looked like Vanderkoy was thrown in the corner just past the flag stand. There's a good look at the replay of Jake Johnson tiptoeing through that turn 3 and 4. It looks like just barely dragging the toe. Just
skimming that wheel. A lot of people think the steel shoe, you use it to slow down, you plant it on the ground. The top guys out there are just letting that steel shoe just kind of skim across the dirt. It's kind of like a feeler gauge. It's like, all right, I'm leaned over, here it is. You put too much weight on that foot, it takes the weight off the tires, pushes the front end up the racetrack. So looking in fine form there for the for the 5 of Jake Johnson.
Group number 3, 52 Shayna Texter, 41's Hazel, 14B is Hazel, those are brothers, 29 Jake Mattia, 90W is Wyatt Anderson, 93 Danny Kelch, 30S Jason Eisenach, 83S Mike Poe, 71 that's Big Don Mullen, 69 F Ben Evans, 58 Adam Carpinello, 35 is Will Cato, 21 Duke Erickson, that's Duke Erickson, 42K is Clint Erickson. So we have 2 sets of brothers out there, and the 66Y Dominic Klinger is getting his first ride on that Babe DeMay Yamaha FZ07.
Out front, the 71 of Donald Mullen, been around quite a few years. I think he's in his late 20s, maybe early 30s by now. On a pretty looking Kawasaki here. This is looks like a Roy Miller built bike out of Pennsylvania. Flicks it off into turn 1. Looks to be going pretty good. See the 29 of, I believe, Mattia there, moved up into the 2nd position on the racetrack, wanting to move forward. We saw him go pretty good from this group in the last round.
So it looks like Don Mullins run a little bit lower line going in the corners and keeping it down there. Look like there's a nice smooth move. Mattia still carrying the momentum, running up a little bit higher on the racetrack on his Kawasaki.
Yeah, letting it drift up a little bit. Sometimes that's you just kind of go where the bike takes you, or if you have difficulty getting the thing turned in the middle of the corner. It works good through the middle, but he loses a bike link or so there coming off at turn 2. Let's see if he can make up for it here in 3 and 4.
Mattia is diving in deep on the 29. He goes back up to the high side, right at the edge of the groove. Doesn't quite make it stick. Don Mullins starting to pull away just a little bit on the 71. Here comes Mattia down low into turn number 1. Not quite as low as Don Mullen. Now he's going to come off the corner lower, and it'll be a drag race down the back straightaway. Here comes Mullen. He weighs a little bit more. He's getting a little bit more traction. Here comes Matthias, going to try the inside going in turn 3.
Yeah, we got a lot of different action going on here. This is a great preview. You know, these guys are probably guys that are going to be looking to see if they can get it into the main event. They may not be a threat to win a heat race, but they're certainly going to be a threat to put the bike in the main event.
Well, especially as the night will continue on, depending on what Mother Nature does, we may take 6 out of a heat race, depending on what's going on and what the chances on the forecast are. So these guys could be practicing for some passing moves they might have to use later on. Look at Mattia getting it sideways. Coming off the corner, checkered flag is out from Kevin Clark, and Jake Mattia will pick up the checkered flag. I believe Danny Medine's actually caught up with one of the GNC 1 riders. I believe he's caught up. She has caught up with the Bullet, Brad Baker. They're just about ready as the last rider comes across the line. Let's go down trackside and catch up with Danny.
All right, thanks you guys. Brad Baker, in between practice qualifying, we're gearing up for the first heats of the day. What are some of the things as a rider that you're thinking about right now, being this is the first half mile that we're at this season?
Mainly just the way the racetrack's going to change. This track being a smooth red clay track, it starts out really hooked up, and then it gets that blue groove on it. It starts to get slicker. So, you might be fast in one session, you go out the next one, and it changes, and then your whole strategy, the way you ride the track and the way you set up the bike for it changes as well. So we're just kind of chasing the racetrack, and myself, I just got to chase the lines and different things that are happening on the track as well. So this is a racetrack that just constantly keeps you thinking.
So for the race fans watching, there's a lot to pay attention to.
All right, back on the racetrack. Here comes GNC2. This is their last chance to qualify for today's event. Coming out according to their point standings, there's a big group of riders out front. 44E's Nick Armstrong, 24J's Brandon Wilhelm, 67M, that is Dashin Davis Fisher. Throw this 27U Jameson Miner, and the 11Z is Andrew Luca right there. That's a big group going for the lead.
Yeah, sometimes this works well to be with some of the faster riders and see how you stack up, but there are times too when you start racing each other too much, it may have an effect on your qualifying lap, as we saw the 67 of Fisher running up the inside. We're going to start to see a little bit more of that too. We've seen the blue groove kind of develop in the middle of the racetrack. We're going to start to see guys running on toward the bottom of it and start widening the groove to the inside. A lot of times that brown dirt down there can be a lot of grip.
That looks like the first time that Davis Fisher actually ran at the very bottom of the racetrack. They may have went into the pit area and made some changes, because now he's keeping it at the bottom. The first 2 rounds he was all the way at the high side of the racetrack. That may be the line that he likes, but it may be faster down there on the bottom. He's got a 2:4.657 on that first lap.
Yeah, good lap for Davis. Quite a bit quicker than the last round. That's probably about 0.3 quicker than what Wells ran the first time around. So some changes to the 67, either in setup or how the riders approaching the corners, is paying some huge dividends at the moment.
He's actually pulling away. He actually passed these guys, and now he's pulling away, pulling the front wheel down the back straightaway, throwing it in the corners. Doesn't look like he's shifting the motorcycle like Ryan Wells is in that third group, or actually he's in the second group, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, Davis, he's walking the dog here pretty much. He's put nearly a quarter of a straightaway in just a few laps.
Look how much faster he is than everybody else,
yeah,
Chris.
0.4 of a second quicker in this particular session. Still holding on at a 24.65. But you'll notice a lot of times these guys, their best laps are usually the first one. And they go, oh, wow, that felt really good. And then they start to get more aggressive. The thing about the tires here, you get a little bit too much heat in them. They don't have a chance to really cool off on this kind of racetrack. So you have to kind of take it easy for him. But a big disparity between his best and last lap, 3.5 tenths, 0.4 of a second difference. The tires themselves get a little hot and they can slow down quite a bit.
He's definitely feeling good as he wheelies all the way down the back straightaway. Davis Fisher with a 2:4.657. Jamison Miners in second, Bronson Bauman third. And we have 2 more groups to go to wrap up our qualifying practice. Second group looks like this. 68A is Ryan Barnes. 94B is Ryan Wells, who was fastest in the first round. 16M, Austin Helmholtz. 72F, Tyler Butts. 63A is Jesse Long. 47F is Austin Conant. 20J is Ben Lau. 22U is Beland. 24C is Peyton Pruitt. 78J is Dylan Phelps. 29A, Colin Cunningham. 57J is Thomas. 57A is Connolly. 11F Curtis Vanderkoy, and the 39J is Nathan Wilson. That is group number 2 here in our final round of practice. We actually have 2 more groups to go, this one and one more, and then qualifying time practice will be wrapped up. We do have a scheduled open paddock area right now. It's scheduled from 6:45 until 7:45. I'll let you know how to get there as soon as they figure it out and tell me how to do it.
You see the 94B runs up the inside of Varnes. It doesn't quite make the pass going into turn 3, but downshifting, turns the thing up underneath him. Let's see if he can get a good run coming off of turn 4. The 67A, Ryan Varnes, holding off, the 94B of Wells, who's been one of our faster riders so far today.
And that is Revan Ryan Varnes, son of Kevin Varnes, used to be national number 89. Actually picked up, I believe, a first and a second last weekend, or a second and a third last weekend at Bucyrus, Ohio. Did you get to go to that race?
I did not. I was up playing on Bull Tacos at Square Deal Rider in New York, so I did not make the trip to Ohio. I got to go. I was a little greedy and got to go play on 2 wheels myself last weekend.
I was actually down in Austin, Texas. I stayed down there for another week. The X Games was pretty cool, but I stuck around and watched Bubba Blackwell jump over 2 Budweiser trucks down there in Austin, Texas at the ROT rally, so I didn't get to go to Bucyrus, Ohio either. We got great racing going on here in Hagerstown. It's actually qualifying time practice. 2 more groups to go. Here comes Ryan Wells with a 2:5.015, so he's not quite as fast as he was the last round. But like you said, the track starts slowing down just a little bit, or maybe he didn't quite make the changes to keep up with the racetrack. Ryan Varnes just about runs off the racetrack, somehow gets it slowed down at the nick of time down there in turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, this track is going to be interesting. We see the 94 still downshifting into the corners, grabbing a gear up the straightaways, running the 2-gear program here, and that's been successful here in the past. Depending on what the track does over the course of the night, we'll see if he'll still be able to continue to do that. But Ryan Wells looking good out front. The thing I've seen is some very consistent times. Davis Fisher had 1 really good lap, and then the rest of them were in the high 24s, low 25s. Ryan Wells running consistent low 25s, 25.0, 25.1. That's some real good consistency, and that's what's going to pay off in their 16-lap final.
Absolutely. As the checkered flag flies, that's group number 2. We have 1 more group to go. In just a second, we'll have the final group of qualifying time practice coming up in just 1 second. So that was it for group number 2. Still Davis Fisher, who was the fastest with a 2:4.657. 2:4.657 for Davis Fisher, which is faster than Ryan Wells was in the first round with a 2:4.930. Last group, it's the 69J. Looks like he's back out there as William Emmendorfer. 27S, Hayden Avery. 22A is Harvitt. 51E is Casey Cahoon, one of the riders that went down hard. 18C is Nick McFadden. 20B is McKnight. 88C is Beland. 39B is Scott Barrett. 44A is Jerry Alexander. 17A is Harris. 98J is Pfeiffer. 46S is Valentine. 37A Corey Strickler, and the 43C is Widener. Last group on the racetrack, qualifying time practice.
These guys getting in group 3, getting up to speed, it's going to be important to get a good clean lap. The first round that they went out in does not count now. These guys are most likely going to get their 4 laps in, so they got to make them good laps. And if they had an issue in the last round, they got to make up for it immediately. So be interesting to see what the cutoff at the 32nd position is. Right now, 29th is at a 26.01. So I'm believing these guys are probably going to have to be right around that in order to guarantee, or high 25s to get themselves into the program. As the Harvitt gets a little sideways, kills his drive a little bit coming off of turn 4.
Second place rider closes the gap right there. Like you said, Harvitt lost a lot of momentum right in the middle of the corners. Now the second place rider dives in deep. Harvitt's running the very bottom. The second place rider's going a little bit higher, a little bit longer around the track. And the low line seemed to be working that time for Harvitt. This is it for qualifying time practice. 12 riders will put them in the hauler. We'll see them next weekend as we head on down to Lima, Ohio. It's the last Saturday in June is Lima Half-Mile.
25.84 now in the 32nd position. That's the 39J.
It looked like the second place rider had a problem right there as he moves out of the way. Looks like he's dragging his left foot. So not sure what happened right there. If he caught it over there in turns 3 and 4, was not in our screen, but he's going to have to rely on his qualifying times for what he had earlier.
Earlier, yes. But the cutoff now still at a 25.84.
And some of these riders may have had quicker times in the last session, so we'll have to combine the times from the last session and this session to figure that out for sure.
We saw the 37A of Corey Strickler, I believe was on the podium at an AMA National Hill Climb last weekend.
Yeah, I think you were
Freemansburg. Yeah.
You and I were talking earlier, and we think that he's the only rider that has a professional license to race hill climb and flat track.
At least this year, yeah.
At least that we know of.
There's a lot of, believe it or not, a lot of crossover routes. We've got a young rider running the amateur schedule right now. Garrentser out of Indiana. And two previous generations did a little bit of flat tracking and hill climbing, and it's not uncommon, believe it or not, to see guys go around a flat surface like the Hagerstown Half-Mile, and also climb up the hills of Freemansburg, Pennsylvania as well. So.
All right, well, that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for qualifying time practice. We'll have the overall times here in just a little bit. You see some of the bikes are actually going through tech right now. They check several different things. They could be checking the gas, could be checking anything, but they're lined up to go through tech as they come off the racetrack, as they check them and move them on. We are going to take a short break. Right now, we're going to have opening ceremonies tonight at 7:40, ladies and gentlemen. Opening ceremonies at 7:40. Our first heat race will now fire off the line at 8, so we did move our races up 30 minutes. We are obviously going to keep an eye on Mother Nature and what's going on outside and coming from the skies. So our opening ceremonies will be coming up at 7:40 today. I've got about 5 riders lined up. Meet our trophy girls, meet some very important people, and then we'll get started with the racing action here today.